Go ahead.
Hey, Reaper fans, here we are live at Anne's house again. This time because Justin has a cough, and so he should not go into Reaper. And pretty much that's always, as I mentioned in yesterday's stream, that's the boss's general prognosis is if you have a cold, if you have anything, stay home. So today we are at least streaming from home for this first bit. We're going to see how Justin feels later in the day, but we may also stream from my home for this afternoon for Dance of Death. I'll have to run to work and get my dragons, but yeah. So hello, good morning. Let's see. Hey Tez, hey Freestyle, hey Robin and Jedi Jared and Margaret and Daffodil. Um, do. Oh yes, yes. As far as the crab man, yeah, I actually really like this model. But you know, I love painting animals, so go figure. So I thought he was pretty darn cool, and his shell gives a good opportunity for us to work on like interesting color transitions and kind of matching colors and things like that. And animals can be odd. So he looks like a blue crab. He could be. I think he looks kind of like a king crab too, but you know, you could probably, there's a lot of spiny crabs that you could paint this guy up as colors. Hey Scott Beal, hey Jay, hey Nomad Zeke and Chris Air. And we do not have a free this morning. We are going to do our AMA tomorrow during this time slot. I have it sitting on at my kitchen table to sit down and, you know, already started on my list of stuff. Welcome everybody. You can do anything. I mean, when you see the model, when I go back to it, you're going to see that it's similar to a lot of spiny-ish type of crabs. Like, there's a particular shape of crab that's more spiny and looks a lot like this. When I was looking at pictures, I found at least 3 or 4, like the Dungeness, the King, the Blue, like all those crabs fit this profile close enough, right? So, yeah, there is no free. There is no free for this show. Or I don't think so, right, Justin? I mean, we're not freeing still. It's just the
No.
AMA.
We will give away some stuff this afternoon, I believe.
Right
Assuming
on
we hit our
Dance
sub
O
goals.
Death. Yes, on the Dance of Death stream, on the Dragons That Never Die stream, then we will do it. But we do not do freeze on this show. This show is we keep an eye on how many subs we get, and then we do an AMA where I try to answer as many of your questions as I possibly can. Because we think that's more in the spirit of this show. This show isn't necessarily about physical rewards. It's about like all of the intelligence and knowledge that we hand out to help you guys get to be better painters. So that is what we are focused on. So we thought a knowledge-based reward for subs would be better. Alrighty. Yes, the show is the prize, pretty much. Hi, Planer. How's it going? Hey, Garmage. Hey, crabs are cute. Well, actually, they're kind of creepy. Like, I must admit, they are. The fact that they are spiderish kind of creeps me out. They are tasty, however, and I am all about tasty animals. So they do fall into that category. All right, I think we're good. Let us, yeah. Thanks for linking the Discord there, Planer. So if you want to get a question in for the AMA, and we already have our first one scheduled, and then we're going to schedule the next one when we hit our 30 subs goal, then go to our Reaper Discord, which Planer just linked in the chat, and go to Questionable Anne and add your question to the list of questions and topics in there. And if anything is like really complicated, it might get shoved forward to a show. But otherwise, feel free to throw out whatever you want, whether it's about me and my history with Reaper, or about Reaper in general, or about my life and my other hobbies, or about, you know, painting questions specifically, obviously, or the obvious questions to ask. All right? You can also ask about specific models. Like, you know, if you're like, gosh, what do I use for orc skin? Or gosh, what do I, you know, I'm painting this model and I'm running into a problem. What do I do? So troubleshooting is definitely a topic we can hit on the AMA. That is absolutely cool. And it's neat because it helps everybody learn, right? If you're having a problem with a model and you show it to me, I can probably like grab that model and then maybe show you how I would address it. So all of these are great ideas. Yeah, crabs can be cute. Yes, they can. They are water spiders. This is correct. But yes, do jump into the Discord. There are a lot of people. If you like big Discords that are very active, that's Reapers. Yes. And there's my Patreon. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So, all right. Yes, sea bugs. So we're going to paint a sea bug today. And I thought I would do blue crab. I found a good blue crab picture. I found a couple of other really weird ones and wacky ones, and I was like, well, maybe not today. But I do like the mixture of brown and blue that's on a blue crab, and I did find a very, very pretty blue crab. So we'll use that. So I'm going to switch over to the cam. Oh, hold on, let me deactivate my intro so that I do not blur for you guys later. And
I also do personally love the blue crabs. They're my favorite.
just because they're tasty or because they're pretty?
That's a large part of it, yeah. But
Justin
no,
is all
'cause
about the tasty crab. Look at this pretty crab. So as you can see, he's got some definite light blues. I thought his deeper blue was greenish, but when I really started comparing other colors to it, I saw there's quite a lot of purple in it. And then, you know, he's kind of got a more of a bluish highlight there. He's got some speckle patterns. And then in places on his shell, he's also got some brown mottling where there are like seams in the shell or scratches and damage, or even just regular patterns. He's got some brown here and there. So I am pretty much had to fight around and mix some colors to come up with my blue. Let's see here. Hold on. I was just checking chat. 1 second. I'm allergic to this stream. Don't worry, guys. I think you're fine. Oh no, it's my 40K chat group interfering with my crab picture. So anyway, we're gonna be doing that. And on this guy, we don't so much have a lot of the seams that are natural in that other guy, but we can kind of put some brown modeling in where we've got dips in the shell and stuff like that. So here are my colors. So I thought the easiest way to do this, and I've actually got to put my highlight. My highlight's going to be Irison Blue for today. So my first color, I thought I wanted to go purplier, and I wanted to also I wanted to come at a kind of it from a soft indigo-ish, but indigo, Night Sky Indigo was a little bit too purple. So instead, I'm mixing soft blue 9230 and Night Sky Indigo 9422, and to that I added some of my highlight color just to make it a little lighter, which is Irison Blue. So I'd say I'm probably 3 drops this, 3 drops this, and 4 drops that right here at this color. And that's going to be my base color. It is close enough. It's maybe a little dark for his shell, but I'm going to be highlighting it when I stipple on texture. So I'm essentially starting with the shadow area of his shell. Is actually a female due to the way the back spine is shaped. Well, it's a crab girl then, and Reaper has failed again. I keep saying we need more female monsters. That's why I insisted on female dragon this time. That's why we got, what's her name? Shivinra. Shivinra was my name. And I told Ron I wanted a female dragon, that one of our dragons had to be a girl this time. But I think, like in the past, a couple of our dragons, I think Deathsleet is a girl. But otherwise, our past Reaper dragons have been very male. So I think some of our monsters need to be girls. To my Fine Surface Primer. So shake well, obviously, freestyle. But yeah, on metal models and on resin, I really like it. Well, good, Jason. I'm glad you're here. Maldracar will always be female. Yeah. Mal had to be a guy. We had to vary from, any other 5-headed dragon IP. So that was our official stance. But you can paint the dragon however you want. So I'm just going to use a big fat. Actually, let me get an even bigger, fatter brush. Yeah, well, the phone is a little bit delayed. Good morning, Sentimental. How are you? So Justin may be having a cough, but I feel pretty good this morning. So I've been getting a lot of sleep, so that if I do start to catch a cold or something, I can kick it hopefully very quickly. Since there are a lot of colds going around, apart from anything else. Let's see. So, and the other thing I did was I mixed this with some white. So I grabbed a bunch of this, I put it over here, I mixed white in. It was a little too purple, so I added a couple more drops of soft blue to bring it more in line with what my crab shell looks like. So I'm going to kind of glance at my photo, and then I'm going to start. I think I'm more purpley toward the back side and more blue toward the front side, so I do want to mix up some of my Irison Blue. What I'm probably going to end up doing is glazing with clear blue or clear phthalo, which is the Reapercon color. So you can use clear blue, which is 9097, or you can use the clear phthalo. The clear phthalo is a little bit more greenish, and the clear blue is a little bit less so. So that's your difference between those two clears. Let me get this on. Whee. Iridescent blue is such a pretty blue, and I've been wanting to use it for a while. So that's my highlight. It's Pathfinder 89525. I very much like it. I think it'll be great. I might mix a little bit of phthalo into it to make it more intense, or I may just use it and then I'll just glaze. I think glazing is good. Yeah, Josh, I do thin all my paints, even my base coats, because I wash my bones models. I find that I can get away with a thin base coat. We'll see if it puts me to the lie. But no, looks pretty good. So I like working with thin paint all the time. I'm just going to paint over the barnacles. We'll get those later. So when bones, the fact that if I don't wash my bones, I have to use my base coat full strength is annoying to me. So I always wash my bones, and I get out my plastic mixing bowl, and I just fill it with hot water and a little bit of dish soap. And then I dump a bunch of models in it, sploosh them around, and then I rinse them very well, and I let them dry overnight on a dish towel or a paper towel. And that enables me to use a thinner base coat, because it's probably just removing some mold release or some oils from the processing of the model. And so I'm going to get a solid base coat on here, and then we're going to start some stippling and some patterns. I might go a little lighter here. But yeah, I prefer thinned paint. So my base coat here is not too thinned, though. It's probably about 3-to-1. And I used to use even thicker base coats, but since I discovered that I could, wash the bones and do this, I used to, in the far distant past, I used really thin base coats, like almost washes, and I would just layer them up. All right, so I did a little bit of stippling. No ferrets today. Oh, wait, a ferret. Wait, do you want to... Some of you didn't see yesterday that the ferret got done except for his base. So here, let's show you the ferret. So here is our happy ferret. Well, he's not very happy, obviously. He's got kind of a growl on. But you can see how I feathered the fur in on the tail and on the body, and I added the white highlights up here. And then the first day we had done this, but I also finished his tail on this side. So I sent a picture to Ron yesterday, and he loved it. So, and there's a little face, a ferrety face. Yes. So here's the ferret. So giant weasel painted as a black-footed ferret. I love to paint animals, so here I am painting animals because I love it. So yeah, I'm just going to put probably some fine gravel and a few bigger rocks. Maybe I'll sculpt a couple of larger pebbles on the base. This outside part will probably get just painted as dirt or stone. And then I'll add some tufts of grass just to, finish him off and give him a little bit of something extra on his base. And I have to clean off the side of the base because I got a little enthusiastic with primer or with paint spatter. Usually fingernail will take that off. And if not, I'll just have to paint it and paint it black, which I don't like doing because it inevitably rubs off eventually, but that's where we are. So yeah, so there's little ferret. That's how he turned out. Yeah, a dire black-footed ferret, right? Yes, exactly. So I'm very happy with how he turned out. And Ron is happy, so that makes me happy. All right, so we're just going to continue. I didn't thin that. See, notice, by the way, that when you don't thin your paint and you try to do this sort of wet blending, you can see the brush strokes much more clearly. This is why I actually normally like to put down like a solid base color and then go back with thinned paint to wet blend. Because it's harder to get a smooth blend the thicker your paint is. Like even here, I'm showing brush strokes, like you can see it, right? So sometimes on a crab shell like this, you might want that. You might want that level of kind of stippling artifact, in which case keep rocking it. You can kind of see how my brush is leaving little tiny brush strokes, right? And that's not bad. But if you want a smooth blend, you want to thin your paint maybe a little more. See, you can see the brush stroke there. So thicker paint will not blend quite as smoothly as thinner paint, but if you're going to use thinner paint for wet blending, you probably want to put down a solid base coat first. I'm going to thin this just a little bit and see if I can get it to work for me. But usually I do just base coat and then I work over it with wet blends if I'm going to do it. And I often use wet blending on animals. Oh, I gave him a little tiny little spot. Look, let's just keep that. Actually, that spot is cute. We're keeping the spot. We're just going to make it a little bit more so. We're just going to blend it in a little bit. So see, I thinned my paint. Now look at how it's blending the bottom part of that spot. So, ooh. Oh yeah, thanks Planer. Planer is, we need a dire otter. He kind of looks like an otter in a way. You could probably paint this dire weasel as an otter. He has that thick tail, right? So I'm just going to give this guy a little star shape on his forehead. I think it's kind of cute. The one thing that about doing thicker paint is that you get those little brush shaped artifacts, but that's kind of cool too. So if you like randomized textures, then go for it and just kind of work with this and try to get yourself some cool patterns. And then we can let that dry, and it's going to have all those swirly pieces in it, and then we can accentuate it. So I like using like a stippling technique like this on animals with natural patterns on their like shells and things. I even use it on wolves and furry critters to set them up to get some natural fur texture because animals are not always symmetrical, usually aren't in fact fully symmetric. So if you wet blend, you can get some nice irregularities that look very natural for fur patterns and such. I'm going to add a little bit. I kind of like how these randomized patterns that are coming up, I really like. So I'm actually going to try to accentuate them when I see them, making kind of swirling patterns on the shell. Because although I'm going mostly blue crab, it's kind of cool to take a fantasy take on it too, right? Because it is a crab man or crab girl. So I can work with that and make it more fantasy by adding patterns that wouldn't be in a natural crab.
Out of curiosity, Ann, did Weeby did that, right?
Yeah, I think he did. I'm pretty sure Weeby.
Did he put a crab apron on it? Because actually, that'll tell us the gender.
No, he did not.
You flip it over, you can see.
No crab apron.
Oh, you're right.
It's a girl. Well, thank you, Threads of Fate. I'm glad you were impressed with the weasel. Yeah, so yay, blue crab. All right, cool, excellent. I'm wondering if I need a darker color. Well, I think I'm gonna work in my browns here. Let's work in some browns. And I'll paint this bottom part here too. And I gotta get the highlights up here at the top of the head too. So the brown patches on him, I was able to find colors for that were just about perfect. And those were russet brown for the base on it, and then rich leather. And from the photo, just holding up the colors against the photo, these are very, very close to the colors that as they appear on the photo for the brown patterning on the shell. So we'll add in some extra little patterns in brown, which of course browns are muted oranges, so they're actually a complementary color to blue. So you can use them like that. If you have blue in your color scheme and you're looking for another color and you don't want to use orange, you can actually use a brown, and it will act the same way. It will make your blues look cooler and more intense. Cooler in temperature, rather. Not necessarily cooler in cool factor. Blue is pretty cool already, though. Doesn't really need more cool factor, in my opinion. But then I love blue ambience, so blue is one of my favorite colors. There. All right, now I need the highlight. Need to bring up some real pale stuff up here. I might need to wet blend it because I lost since I'm painting it into an area that's already dried, I'm going to have to kind of reblend it. So I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the previous color and kind of sneak it in there. Some of this area is still drying, so I need to be very careful. I don't want to strip up paint or cause globbiness. So I may lay down this pale color and then come back in and wet blend it in when everything else is good. But I want to get all the little tips in light blue because that's how they look. Good afternoon, Zambies. Blue is cool, I agree. Thank you for the compliment on the ferret fur. I had a lot of fun with the ferret and I'm very happy with him. That's the best thing, it's nice to have other people think that your stuff is great, but when you yourself really like it, that's the best thing. There are plenty of color choices I've done over the years where people around me have been like, really? And I'm like, I like it, so deal. Paint your own if you don't like it. There we go. All right, so we've got some color blocked in. You can see my lines of demarcation. Things are mostly dry down around there, so I may pick up a little bit of this and try to smooch it in to that edge. And I don't really care if I have tiny little suggestions of brush strokes, it's probably just going to be assumed to be the shell pattern. So I don't need to really worry about it. That's the nice thing about chitons and shells and insect shells and everything is they usually do have some some natural patterns on them and some natural texture. So if you use wet blending to do them, you can get away with a lot, and you don't need perfect blends because nobody's going to expect it, right? They're going to see patterns on the shell, and they're just going to assume that any brush stroke you left is intentional. So as long as it looks good to you, rock it. Fun crab guy. I love this model. I'm glad I got to paint him. When I saw him on the shelf, I was like, ooh, must paint crab guy. Super fun. Let's see here. We've got some patterns that I already had tried to keep in play. So I'm going to kind of work those a little bit. And then I'm going to actually work the blues around them. So just randomized stippling. I'm not actually, when I'm sitting here stippling, guys, I'm not really even looking at where my brush goes. Like I kind of am. I'm kind of going, okay, I want to stipple kind of here or there. But I'm trying to vary my pressure on the size of my brush stroke, and I'm just not paying too much attention to it. And I'm not trying to make it symmetrical. I'm just trying to lay down some interesting patterns so you can see there when I get out of the light. So it looks much more organic when you do that. With animals, again, you don't want to be symmetrical necessarily. So there you go. Yeah, exactly. Threads of fate. So it's like, I like it like this. If you don't like it, paint your own character is the proper response. Actually, you should encourage them to paint their own characters also, just to get more people like into the crack that is miniature painting. Especially since everybody's stuck at home right now, or a lot of us are. So it's like a great time to work on all those creative projects that you like never had time for. Like if everybody's like, well, I never have time to work on miniature painting. Well, now is the time. Do it. Yeah, go for it. Especially with so much great online content for miniature painting these days.
Yeah, like our YouTube channel.
Like our YouTube. There you go,
Twitch.
Justin. There you go. See, Justin, I lobbed that softball in and Justin hit it out of the park. See, there we go. Now I know you're not too sick, Justin, because you can still catch that ball.
Well, I try to be as happy and as cheery as I can. I don't feel too terribly bad, but it really does mess with your mood when you cough every 3 seconds.
Yes, yes. This is true. It's a downer. I hate having stuff in my lungs. After surgery, I had stuff in my lungs, and it was really, like, annoying.
And that's the worst time to have it too, is after surgery.
Well, it's because they put the tube down your throat, or at least for me, they had to. So essentially, it irritates your guts, and you tend to build up mucus as a defensive mechanism. So afterwards, they test your breathing regularly, and you have to hit a certain point before they'll let you go home. But I was like just thinking that it was just like a little bit hard to breathe, and then I coughed and a whole glob of stuff came out of my lungs, and I was like, oh, it's that sort of thing. Then I was fine. So, yeah, I hope you feel better soon, Justin.
I hope so too.
All right, so I'm just kind of adding in some lighter areas toward the back. I probably want to hit this little lower edge also, just with my lighter mix. Yeah, Garmage, I'm mostly wet blending. So it's, except that I'm not fully wet blending. Like you can see the stippling, you can see these little brush strokes. So it's not entirely wet blending. Here, it's more wet blending. And if I'm going to wet blend, I'm going to lay down my dark, another layer of my dark first, and then I'm going to bring my light in. So I still get texture, but I can't see the little bits. Like I can see the little brush strokes up here. Because I wanted more texture on the shell. So I'm using a mixture, depending on what I want, depending on if I want more of a subtle pattern or if I don't. I'm leaving texture no matter where for the most part because the shell has texture on it. And so I'm not trying too hard to wet blend, but there are definitely areas where I'm aiming to be smoother than others, like down here. I'm still going to stipple with a very large brush. And I am using a big brush because I don't want... The problem with doing a big area like this and using stipple wet blending with a tiny brush is it just doesn't cover very much ground, and you risk getting more brush strokes just because your brush is so tiny and things are going to dry before you get fully into them. There we go. There we are. All right. It's looking pretty. He's got blue. He's very blue. Yeah. Hey, Art of Mike Disney. How are ya? I'm doing well. Justin has a cough. I am thus streaming from home. We may do the other show from home too. Other than that, though, I'm feeling great. That's good.
How you doing, Mike?
Yeah. That's good to work through frustration. Alrighty, so we got crab. Let's put on some brown areas now, since I have a nice pattern set up on Mr. Crab. I should probably also look up barnacles, because he has barnacles on him. So, and I am the must look like real. So let's see, barnacles. I could even look up barnacles on crabs, because the internet is so specific. Images. Let's see. Oh no, barnacles are actually considered an infection on crabs. That's sad. Poor thing. All right, so barnacles are kind of whitish coming up from the skin, and the centers are usually dark, unless they've got a live barnacle in them, in which case they might be a little bit lighter, but it looks like kind of an off grayish white. So, let me find something that's close. Maybe bleached linen would work.
Hey, Mike, that I
Or
read
foggy
that
gray.
to myself as unwanted D pics, and I laughed and then coughed. So thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah, or Mike Disney, you're right. Actually, it did give me exactly what I wanted. For a wonder, the internet is a little less dirty-minded today, maybe. Which is disappointing for some people. Anyway, I'm going to put 2 drops of bleached linen with 2 drops of foggy gray for my barnacles. Looks like they kind of do look a little dark at the base too, so maybe I'll grab my browns and work with that. There we go. That should give me a kind of grayish cream color that's kind of barnacle-y. Yeah, that's good. Then I can highlight it with bleached linen and white. It'll be fine. Alrighty, let's see here. Yes, no. The warning is justified, Art of Mike Disney.
I appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah.
Also, Pants Assassin. Maybe that's not his name. Hope you enjoy the nomadic life, because it sounds like it could be fun.
Is Reaper doing anything for virtual GaryCon? I have not heard about virtual GaryCon. Can you educate us? Do you know about it, Justin?
I do not.
Is it just like a, hey, let's all do virtual awesomeness? Because Patreon is doing something like that too. Oh gosh, yeah, Max Styles. Don't even remind me. Like, the internet was a baby when I started painting. There was very little photo material. Oh yeah, all the cons are going virtual. I see. So GaryCon is doing it on Twitch. Well, that's very cool of them. Yeah. Patreon is cool, and it's also a way, not even my own Patreon, which I will plug in just a second, but I mean, Patreons in general are a great way to help artists right now, because a lot of artists on Patreon are very much self-funded, and that's their main job. And so, and other ones are only doing it part-time, and they're running into issues with their real job. And then there's the musicians who are really screwed because they make money mostly off of shows and stuff, and they can't do them anymore. So do look at Patreon if you are still employed and getting it, and have a little bit of extra cash, and support your favorite artists on there. I personally, my Patreon is patreon.com/paintingbig. Obviously, I do miniature painting on it. We do PDFs and videos and fun stuff, and I do a color level, and I do all sorts of things and stuff that I really like. So yes, it is fun. Patreon.com/paintingbig, and thank you. Every little bit helps, since I will soon be, I'll still be working for Reaper, but only part-time. So I am still going to lose the majority of my income when I move in a few weeks. So really, I'm very happy for my Patreon. I will be depending on it for the majority of my income in the future, which is exciting and scary as heck, if you know what I mean. So thank you for the Patreon spam, everybody. Yeah, I'm not sure, Justin, if you can note down the GaryCon thing. I don't know if Reaper would be interested in doing something. If it's all streamed content, though, maybe we can do just a bonus stream on something.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we should totally support the gaming community in these times. Although I want to tell you guys, like, you could tell that all of America decided to go back to World of Warcraft last night. Um, David and I were trying to play Overwatch, and oh my god, all the Blizzard servers were crashing. Like, even the Overwatch servers, you could not. Like, there was a queue to even start the launcher. It was insane. So it's like all these people who can't go out and do things anymore are like, I used to love WoW. I used to love Overwatch. Let's play video games. And of course, they're going for the social video games. So they can actually still talk with their friends. And so yeah, it was we stopped even trying. Like he stayed in and tried to get some of the PvE content that's going on right now, and I was just like, I'm just not even gonna. So it was funny. It's like, it is indeed, everybody is going back to the computer games. Yeah, something like 20 million concurrent users. Yeah, Painting Dog, I believe it. Oh really? You had no problem with Diablo 3? We had definite problems with Overwatch. So yeah, it's interesting. Mike Disney, I maybe I'll try WoW Classic tonight and see if it gives me the same problem. Yeah, I tried WoW Classic back when it first came out just because I was like feeling like a masochist. It reminded me why I was addicted to it for 10 years, and I stopped playing. Mostly just because I ran out of time. Because with the Patreon and the real job and on getting ready for the move, I just have no time. So what I'm doing here is I put some russet brown around these barnacles. And as you can see, it's pretty sharply, it's making them stand out really sharp right now. I'm not sure I like that. So, oh, hey, Grim, thanks. Make note, we got another sub.
Okay. Awesome.
Note that.
Thank you, Grim.
Got to keep a tally so that I know how many AMAs in a row I get to do. So I'm mixing just a little bit of my base color with russet brown, with a little bit extra on the base color. And even though colors are totally different, you can totally do this. You can totally mix them. And then maybe I'll do just a little bit of dabbing that in between these, around these barnacles, so that I can take that that sharp line of brown down a little bit, because I don't really want it to look like lining. I more just want to make it look like the barnacles are kind of like blending in to the carapace, kind of growing out of it. So I'm adding a little bit of that, and I'm putting it over the previous brown at the base of the barnacles that I did also, because I want it. And I might stipple it out a little bit to imply that more barnacles might grow. So you don't want anything to look artificial. So we'll see what I can do. And part of it could just be that these are really in strong relief, and I also have a lot of strong light on them, so perhaps they are not actually showing up as starkly as they are on camera, but I'll try it anyway. I was already planning on doing some more brown stippling, so this is probably about a 2-to-1 mix of the soft of my soft blue and night sky indigo mix with my russet brown, just to try to get a little bit of blending in on these barnacle bases. Let's see here. Yeah, detail, and that is the nice thing, is I can show you guys a lot of just kind of how I mix colors, and you can be pretty fearless about it. Because yeah, fine detail requires some brush control, of course, and but when you're doing just color mixing, anybody can do that, really. You don't need a lot of skills, you just need to be adventurous. Aw, thanks for gifting that sub to Rathmore TV. That's fantastic. Sweet. All right, I'm going to take my barnacle color here, and I think I'm going to start mixing a little bit of it with the brown, actually, to get kind of a creamy color there, biscotti color almost. And then I'll start kind of putting the little streaks. Actually, I think I might have a little bit too much paint on my brush. Might need to unload and reload. If you find that you don't have a lot of brush control, you may have too much paint on your brush. So go back, rinse out your brush, and then load it up with very little paint. And see how little paint I have on there. And make sure you wipe a little bit of it off even then, so you get a nice sharp tip so that you can do details. The other thing is, if your paint is really not wanting to come off your brush in little fine lines, then it's probably too thick. And you should go add a little bit of water to it and try again. So we'll see if I can get these little barnacles. They've got little kind of striations on their sides, so I can paint along with that. Get them to see if I like them. And you don't have to be real precise. I'm not actually trying to hit all of those little lines. I'm mostly just doing a brush stroke that works with them to try to get that barnacle there to stand out, that big guy. And actually, also remember another thing, and that is that in old times, painters used to mix brown and blue to make black. So if you just need a random dark color and you have a brown and blue open on your palette, you can sometimes mix those two colors. These browns and blues, this blue has a bit of white in it at this point, so it's not making an effective black. It's just making kind of an effective dark grayish brown. But for the record, you can do that. Actually, I'm going to grab my brown liner for the top of these barnacles, actually. Yay. Yeah, and when you hear people say things like, oh, I never use pure black, it's because they're hand mixing their brown. The classic formula was burnt umber and ultramarine blue. So the equivalent in today's Reaper colors would be russet brown plus ultramarine shadow, I believe. I've also mixed blue liner and blue liner and brown liner together to make an off black. And the reason you would do that is just that pure black is very dead visually. It really does nothing for the eye. The eye just kind of doesn't want to look at it. And a lot of painters, especially in classical paintings or portraiture, they were using a lot of very dark shadows and, in the environment. And they didn't want that to just be dead space. They wanted it to still be visually interesting. So by mixing browns and blues, they were able to get deep shadows that didn't just turn the eye away. Like they were still something for the eye to look at there. So they were able to get their darks without completely losing visual interest. So that is why you would use a brown-blue mix or something of the sort over pure black. Now you can, these days, with all of our pre-made colors, you could get that same kind of effect by using something like a liner, a colored liner, or nightshade purple, which is a nice dark color. Any of our darks that have some visual interest, some other color mixed in, make great fixes for that, where you want it dark, but you don't want it just to sit there and be just dead black. You can also use pure black, but then highlight it with something different if you want it to be more interesting. So, because our eyes like color and they like contrast, so they do not like just gray charred black. And I mean, black is a carbon black, it's a coal black, so it actually is that sort of color. It doesn't do much for our human visual centers. So I've got some barnacles coming up very nicely now that I'm getting their yeah, like a Rembrandt, exactly. Threads of Fate. So there were a lot of, it's very common in oil painting not to use real black, and also in watercolor. Any traditional, those are the two most traditional mediums. They would just mix it. Because they wanted a lot of contrast in their paintings, so they needed to go dark with some colors and areas, but they did not like the deadness associated with that, so that is why they did that. Actually, let me see if this works. 1 second. I'm going to take some russet brown and some ultramarine blue and see. Russet brown has a lot of yellow in it, so it might, even though it is a burnt umber equivalent, it's not chemically the same as burnt umber. Although these days, burnt umber is generally not burnt umber anymore, thanks to modern commercial pigments versus traditional pigments. The reason for that is that traditional pigments are bloody expensive, so I'm going to use 3 drops of burnt umber, 2 drops of ultramarine shadow. These are those 2 colors, just to show you. Ta-da, there they are. And let's see what they make. Do they make an acceptable black is the question. Can we make an acceptable black with it? It's here. The answer is actually really close. Like some of the yellow, you can see a little bit of the yellow, but the blue is so strong that would be an acceptable black. Like it really is very close. Here, let me turn on my little lamp thing. There we go. Didn't want to make more. But it really is dark enough that you could use it as a black. So that is actually workable. You can create, actually one of the people have asked about this, but as far as like the different blacks that we make, one of them actually is an artist black. It still has black pigment, but it also has blue and brown pigment mixed. And that would be the HD black, solid black. So a lot of, if you've heard a lot of painters say that they really love solid black, that would be why. Because it's a very, very complex black. And then the dragon black in Bones is actually a cool black, so it's got some violet and blue in it. I try never, and I'm passing the reins over to Sadie and Ron in the future, but I try never to make the color exactly the same. Like, if you guys are going to go out there and see, oh, it's a new black, and pick it up, I don't want you to be sad because that color is the same as a previous black. So every time we put out a black, it is different in some way. Same goes for white. Sometimes we've tried different bases and sometimes just different mixtures or pigment counts or amounts of additives. So be assured that the whites and blacks are all, although they appear to be pure white, pure black, and they function perfectly well as those things, they are very slightly different from each other. Yeah, I mean, visually identical, right, Margaret? I mean, it's hard for the eye to distinguish at some level. So yeah, I could just change pigment count and base and get different blacks. But the thing is, our challenge for me though has always been that our black is honestly a fantastic black, and so I don't want to depart from it. I don't want to necessarily use a different base because that's going to change the entire behavior of the paint. So I still want it to be Master Series, and so for me, it's always like, well, what? How can I shift this to make it functional, but still cool? Oh yeah, garden seedlings. Oh, I would be afraid they'd be flooded out if they were in Texas, they get flooded out, Twisted Oma, because it has been raining forever here. And I think I went a little bit too harsh there, so I want to bring in a little bit more brown on my barnacles. Anyway, there's a nice barnacle for you. Wait, I can actually pick up a little bit of its mouth there. Let's take our new black and mix some white with it, which is going to tell us what kind of black we've got. So if I mix that, if I take that so-called black that we mixed brown and blue to create, and I add white, we actually do get a neutral gray. So our experiment was successful. I mean, there's still definitely some colors in this gray. You can tell that it's not a flat gray, which is what we want. We want something that has more visual interest. So there you go. A little bit of color theory stuff for you guys in addition to crab painting, because, I can't stay on topic. I'm Anne. And I'm going to highlight the edges of this little barnacle mouth. There we go. There's our little barnacle mouth. Yeah, we've been just inundated. Yeah, if you look at king crab, there's some really awesome reds and oranges that you could paint this sucker Achilles blade. I did think about that. Yeah, and coal black is obviously got green and blue in it, and then you've got, we've got our purple variation. You've got the dark liner colors like red liner and green liner. We have a lot of alternatives to using pure black, and that's nice because it means you can shade with a little bit more complexity on some of your models. Get my more barnacle over here. It's pretty much on these little guys. I'm not concentrating on the striations as much on the little guys. I'm still using that brush stroke because whenever you have a pattern on an animal, you want your brush to follow the correct direction of stroke to suggest that texture. But I'm not being quite as persnickety about it as I was on this big guy. And go on from this. Remember that we are moving the model. We are not repositioning our brush hand. We want our brush stroke to be to feel natural. And to not stress our hand, not strain our hand, especially if we're all going to be doing a lot of sitting around at home. Our backs are probably not going to be that great, so do be conscious of your posture and your just the way your personal comfort when you're doing your hobby. Little barnacles, tiny little barnacle mouths. That one I kind of messed up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, there are some scary looking crabs out there, that's for sure. Alrighty, so those barnacles are looking pretty okay. I want more brown on this shell. So let's see, I'm going to do my mix again of brown and blue. And I'm going to look kind of where the shell looks like it might have kind of indentations. And I'm going to just start, not wet blending, but just stippling at this point. This paint is, I'm going to say it's about a 3 or 2 to 1 at this point, paint to water. The thinner you make it, the more you're going to have to build up your stippling to make it show up. So if you're not sure on the pattern and you're scared of doing stuff you don't like, start with a thinner paint, and that way you can build it up very gradually. As it is, I'm kind of starting around Mr. Barnacle area here so that I can take advantage of the brown color that I've already laid down to build on with these stipplings that I'm taking up. And I'm starting with a mixture of my base blue and brown, and then I'm going to bring the brown in more strongly. I want some brown in the shadows here too. So down here, grab it. And again, I'm not worrying very much about where I'm putting the brush exactly. I'm just kind of wanting to get some color here, here, there, around, right? And it doesn't need to be symmetrical, shouldn't be symmetrical. What do I do with all these minis? I do not finish them, Achilles Blade. There are a bunch of half-done minis lying around, and we are probably going to... The suggestion that I most like was that we would auction them off in small groups at ReaperCon so that people who wanted an example of my painting could get one. But finishing them... I've got models that I actually do need to finish. Some of them lately I'm doing for Ron. So, like, I wanted to finish the Weasel before I left. And so some of the models that I've been choosing to demo on for the stream actually are models that I'm finishing because I want to get them done, and that's why I'm doing them on stream, because it gives me extra time to work on them. But for the majority of my past models, I have not been working on models that Ron actually wants. I've just been choosing models, usually models that we have a lot of in stock, so that if they're, if a bunch of you want to buy them, they won't be out of stock when you go to buy them, so that you can try to duplicate my work. So I worked with production to try to make sure that I was picking models that we had adequate stock of. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I kind of would like to see them just auctioned off for ReaperCon, Reaper Bucks. And then people can go back and watch the shows. And you also will notice right now, okay, so for the browns, I want the lines to be thinner and not as over-encompassing. So I've switched to a thinner brush note, and so I'm getting much finer dots when I'm doing this stippling. So my hope is, and I'm mostly stippling over areas that I already had to put some of the brown on, but I'm using pure russet brown this time. And so my hope is that I will suggest more fine texture and it won't be too jarring. And I could put like little dots where I want them and not be too terribly, there we go. So now we're getting some browns. Maybe I'll put some little dots out here. There we go. There's our crabby. And then actually some of these crabs have brown on the edges of their shells. So let's paint brown down here, the russet brown, 91.99. And what I can do then is I can actually stipple this a little bit so it comes up over the edge. Like that. To just make it blend in with the rest of the shell. So it's not just a band of brown there on the underside. Makes it look like that's an intentional color. Alrighty. Great. This is fun. I love stippling. And there's so many different ways you can use it. It's just primo on animals. Stuff like this is perfect for chitin and things. So there. So we've got some definite... Oh yeah, this is my usual brush. This is the Da Vinci Maestro Series 10, size 1, the thing I use for all tiny brushes. Well, getting more rest is not a bad thing. Yeah, sleep is what I use to get over stuff. I get over colds typically extremely fast, mostly because the minute I feel myself getting tired or sick, I hit myself with like 12 hours of sleep. So let's put some more dark colors down here. And we can do some more stipples to blend that in. So you can start with a harsh line and then just stipple to kind of quote unquote blend it, quote quote blend it in. Make it look more of a natural than a unnatural line. There we are. Yeah, that's good. Boop. And if I want a darker line, I can take that so-called black that I mixed up earlier It does have russet brown in it, remember, so it actually fits my usual shading criteria, which is, you know, if you're going to introduce a new color, have a little bit of your previous color mixed into it. Oh, making cookies. Planner, that is the best use of home time ever. I was debating doing that myself, but I have too much packing to do, so maybe I'll take a break from my packing and tonight and make some cookies. Of course, then after I make them, I want to eat them. That's the problem. But I was thinking that, you know, a batch of chocolate chip cookies sounded awfully good right now. Of course, my cookies are weird since I'm on a weird diet, so I use almond flour and some other weird flours to make quote-unquote healthier cookies. Alrighty, let's see, so that's coming along pretty well. Oh yeah, a lot of people. Actually, I ran into people at the supermarket saying that HMM Road Dog, where they were like, well, "Yeah, since bread is out of stock, I'm having to make bread." So I think a lot of people whipped out their bread maker that they haven't used in ages that they bought, you know, years ago, and are actually making bread, or making it in more traditional ways. I actually have yeast. I actually could make myself a loaf of bread. I make myself muffins in the morning instead with flaxseed ground up. Healthy muffins. They're tasty though. Alrighty, that's doing pretty well. So that's looking good. Let's see here. Ooh, sourdough starter. That's the best sentimental. Yum. No marbles today. Definitely, Justin and I realized that I would have to have Reaper Mini's Twitch login to actually do it when I'm home streaming. So we will not be able to marbles. Like, that's just not a good idea, having me have Reaper's overall master login. They're trying to prevent that. You know, they want to keep that in Reaper's hands. So totally understand. And since we don't have a giveaway for this show anyway, we can just deal. So I love marbles as much as the rest of you. Just say, Justin, get better so that we can have some marbles before I leave. That's we need an inaugural go ahead.
We'll have some marbles, I promise. Now, in talking to Dave, I made the mistake of telling him I have a cough.
Yeah.
So he basically all but had me leave the state. So it's a pretty hefty cough, but there's no other symptoms or anything that's wrong at this point. I just feel bad because I'm always coughing, but outside of that, I'm fine.
Yeah, but coughing is just going to spread whatever you do have, so I totally get Dave's.
Correct, yes. So he actually told me not to come to the shop at all. So that means that Reaper Live and Reaper Land are going to be interesting because I get to remote in to control them. But, I don't know if anyone's going to be actually at the board. So that's...
Well, hasn't Collins been coming in later in the day now? Like, I saw him the other day. I saw him yesterday or the day before. It must have been Monday.
He has been. However, he's been really seriously taking social distancing to a new level. So,
well, yeah. Well, Danny is very nervous about it. So when your significant other is really has a compromised immune system and is very nervous about it, I totally get that. So I can see that. So I don't know. Could Overton do it? Could John do it?
I can walk people through it if I need to. That's what I told Dave. So we'll see what happens.
Right.
I'm not super concerned about whether or not we'll get something out. The product just may not be as good as it could be.
Right. Yes. Yes, exactly. Watansky. Yes. Oh, banana flour. Yeah, actually, I use green banana flour, Vaxar. Because it's high resistant starches, so it's good for your system. It's good for your gut bacteria. And it's not as high carb as regular flour, so because I'm on a much low carb diet, keto diet actually right now, green banana flour is a way for me to get just a little bit of starches in, but not overwhelm my carb ratio. It makes things fluffier. Like if you're into gluten-free baking, which I am, green banana flour will make baked goods fluffier. So if you're looking for that fluffiness factor that you've been missing, it's a good option. I then make it taste more like banana by using banana extract. But, I've been thinking about getting just little sliced bananas and just using a single banana slice mixed in, which probably wouldn't add too many carbs, but would give me a natural banana flavor, and that would probably be even better. There, I'm having fun. See, look at me. I'm essentially going in with my Elysian blue, and I'm accentuating the cool patterns that I first made here in the center of his shell. Let me see, is the light good, or is the light, yeah, the light is good. All right, so, and just kind of stippling a little bit here up on his upper horns, and I added a little bit of speckles here on his backside here, so yeah, so I think that's pretty much showing you guys how I would set it up. I should do a baking show. I actually love to bake, Margaret, and I've been gluten-free baking since I first went gluten-free, which is back in, 2013. I think my Crohn's surgeon, my IBS surgeon recommended it. And then I went keto, and I baked keto for two years. So yeah, if you want weird baking methods that are quote-unquote healthier and lower calorie, I can do it. Oh, you make your own green banana flour. That's pretty cool. I don't have enough time to really do that planer, so I do buy an organic one online. Cooking channel on YouTube about recipes. Yeah. Apocalypse Chow. That's fantastic. I might look her up, Valandar the Red. Yes. Baking with Anne. #1 baking show with painting tutorials. Hey, baking and painting, I will tell you, are both chemistry. So it's totally legit. Totally legit combo of hobbies there. So I think he turned out pretty well, guys, don't you think? Like, I'm gonna add a couple more highlights. I'm gonna have to thin my paint, remember, more, because if I want a finer, lighter texture and I don't want a lot of brush strokes, I want to thin my paint more. So I'm gonna add a little bit more texture. So I'm going to get my little highlight color here, and I want to add just a little bit more stippled texture here. But I don't want it as light as up there. I just want a little bit more down here. There. Oh, that's a little bit dark. And if you have to, if you put on a splotch and it looks way too heavy, then just grab your shadow or base coat color and just kind of mix it in so that you can take it down a notch. Mostly I just want I want some more colors and textures all over the shell. So yeah, I think he ended up looking really cool. And he looks like a blue crab, I think. The colors are right for the most part. Oh, I was going to glaze. Let me do that. I was going to glaze because my initial picture had some really vibrant colors. Ooh, I'm dropping things. This is nothing new. Where's my original color? Original picture. 1 second. All right, so Mr. Crab has some really vivid blues like here on his shell. You can see that. So I'm going to try to glaze with a clear blue, and I'm going to use clear phthalo. It's a little bit greener. I'm going to shove my palette up out of the way so you guys can see here. And I already mixed some of it up, so a glaze is going to be really, really thin. Really just colored water. I don't want too much of it. And what I'm going to do is actually do a watercolor trick, a watercolor painting trick. Yeah, I am going to do the later stream today, Vigos. I'm just going to run into Reaper and get the dragons and bring them home so that we can just do it. So yeah, the street sharks from the 90s. That's funny. So I'm going to grab some of this blue, and if we use a watercolor painting technique, you may be familiar with it, to paint a layer of water down over the surface that you're about to work with. This actually works in a very limited fashion if you work fast on acrylics. You don't want a lot of water. You're not putting a wash. You're not letting it pool. But what this does is lets you then just dab some of your glaze onto the already wet surface, and you can see how it spreads out. It will spread out into your surrounding water area. So it allows me to even stipple with glaze a little bit and see how it looks. Do I ever rebase Reaper bones? Yeah, I don't normally cut the bases off while we're waiting for that to dry, Saul, but I will do this. I'll grab a plastic base, and then I will green stuff the base onto it, and essentially re-landscape it so that I like it better. And then I'll paint it, and it looks fine. I like having the plastic base usually. So, all right, and then if I see stuff pooling, because it is a glaze, I'm going to just grab it with my brush, pull some of the fluid off. Boom, boom, boom. And then we have a kind of an intensifying glaze. Oh yeah, yeah, Margaret, go to Cheap Joe's Art Supply and look under ceramic palettes. They probably are wondering why they're selling so dang many of these lately. Now, if we're just going to do traditional glaze, then we would just take this and we would paint it over the area that we wanted it. But again, if I wanted it only on one area and I wanted to blend it in, I would rinse out my brush, grab just a little bit of water, and go around the outside of the area that I just painted to blend it in. So that's two different ways that you can blend in glazes. I'm going to get a little bit, oh, that's pretty strong there. A little bit in the middle here to make it more blue. You can even extend it over the top of these guys. Yay. And that makes him more intensely blue on his front. Which gives you, glazing can give you a nice gradation of color so that everything doesn't look too homogeneous. So now the front part of his shell is noticeably warmer and greener than the back part of the shell, which is more purple. So, yeah, it's pretty much just, you know, you can do either. You can paint down water and just kind of dot some really thin paint. And by really thin paint, this is the glaze. It's really colored water. See? So that's what you want for glazes. So Threads of Fate, it's really, they're easier than you think. I mean, just if you really want to be ready for disaster, get another brush kind of wet with water and kind of keep it just ready over here on your palette so that if you lay down the glaze and you don't like it, you can right away, you have a wet brush to come and kind of blend in the edges or maybe drop some more water on it and make it more subtle or just swoosh the whole thing off. So you keeping a somewhat wet brush around for that is not a bad idea when you're trying to get comfortable with glazes. But yeah, so there we are, guys. I think he looks really cool. Oh yeah, Cheap Joe's has probably noticed the palettes are a couple bucks more than they were. Yeah. That's fine. I'm fine. I'm glad to give local smaller art suppliers business, so. Yeah, Watinsky. I mean, toothpicks will work in a pinch if you must paint, but yeah, a good brush will level you up exponentially because you can control everything so much better. Oh, I'm sorry you've been sick, Rings. At least if you're watching this stream, hopefully it keeps your excitement like level high to get back into it when you feel better. So there we go. Huzzah. All right, guys, any other questions? That would be, Saul, that would be a great question for our AMA that we're doing tomorrow morning. I'm trying to remember. I think it was layering, though. I'll go more into why tomorrow morning at 11. I can put that on the list of stuff. But layering was, when I was learning to layer, there were like the mini painting group on Yahoo Groups was open, but there weren't videos. Like you didn't find that sort of media online. So you were just going by somebody's vague description of how they did stuff, and then you were trying to figure it out if you didn't have anybody around you. So you know, it was in a vacuum. So I'm largely self-taught as a miniatures painter because I didn't have any friends with mini painting who were better than me. So I just looked at pictures and tried to reproduce what I saw. I do have an art school background, but I honestly learned more about art for miniature painting, at least working with acrylics and watercolor. I've learned more from this hobby than I ever learned in college. So do not think that, you know, you need an art background. My art background helped me very little when I was doing this. So, yay. But yeah, I may go more into exactly what I ran into with layering and why it was so problematic for me. So, you know, Valandar, I totally get that, but I also get that they're a little bit cheaper online. And also Dick Blick, I have to say, has an excellent return policy. If a brush arrives mooshed, they will send you a new one. They're very good about it. They're very good on their brush guarantee, so I trust them a lot. So I do order from Blick because if I know if my brush arrives compromised, they will bang good on it. Alrighty. Alrighty. Good. Threads of Fate, that's really funny. Okay. All right, you guys, let's go back to Facecam and say hello. Hey, guess what? It's time for me to end this show and get my dog bundled up and me and lunch and get my butt to Reaper so that I can work on cleaning out my office and grab the dragons for my stream at 3 and get back home. So it's going to be kind of a run back and forth day for me. But I will see you guys again at 3 p.m. and we will work on our Dance of Death dragons. Maybe I need to do the face of the white dragon. I think we've got most of the scales figured out, actually. So we're almost to the point where I would put these suckers together and just start painting the parts like that connect just in place. In which case, we may need to change our camera setup a little bit. Although maybe we'll have a construction episode. Maybe we'll just do that and show how we're putting them together optimally, and then start painting some last bits. Yeah. You bet.
Sounds
Thanks.
awesome.
You are welcome, guys. You are welcome for the show. I had super fun. I really like how Mr. Crab looks. I'm very thrilled with him. So yay. Just ordered a palette. Awesome, Margaret. The key to using this palette is to use more drops of paint. So like I would usually say 6 to 8. And use, obviously you'd be thinning it, like at least 2 to 3 to 1, probably around 2 to 1 for using thinned applications. Maybe even 1 to 1 for layering, and 2 to 1 water to paint for glazes. So essentially, the more paint and water you have in each tiny little well, the more it just stays for hours. Like it'll stay at the right consistency for a long time. You might have to add 1 extra drop or brush full of water if you leave it there for like an hour and you haven't touched it, like I did with my highlight color. But in general, the more, when you've got nice deep wells like this, the less surface area you expose to the air and your paint stays the right consistency longer. So I hope you enjoy it. Do give it a try. All right. Thank you, Anne, in quarantine, Justin. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Bubble Boy already.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. I'm gonna say bye. Do we have a raid, Justin?
Yes, we do. Let me go ahead and get that
Who are
going.
we raiding?
Miniatures Den.
Miniatures Den. Yay! Alrighty, I'm gonna switch to this. Bye, guys. Have fun. I will see you at 3. Adios.
Thanks, guys, very much. Spread the Reaper love. Keep being awesome, and we will look forward to seeing you this afternoon. Thanks, guys.